And we're back. It's the Mindstate Marketing Hour with Will Leach. I'm your host, Steve Brown, and we're sharing our best small business stories. Will, how are you, brother?
Hey, I'm doing okay. There's a lot of Christmas spirit in the house today. I got the wife doing all the ribbons and the paper and all that kind of stuff. I'm buying the bags with the fluffy paper because I'm not wrapping things. And we're getting close, man. We have meetings tomorrow, and then we're kind of calling it a week, or calling it a 2021, which is good. So I'm gonna take a couple of weeks off and enjoy the family. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. It's things are kind of been busy and but I'm looking forward to hanging out with my family. So yeah, good stuff. So it's a Mindstate Marketing Hour where we talk with Will. And if you haven't read Will's book, it's got a new look, and it looks like this.
I wonder how long we can say it's a new look. Do we go for like a year before we stop saying that?
Yeah, because
Okay.
this is our show. This
That's
is your show. We can do whatever we want.
That's right. It is new. It's a 2021 version. Guys, if you are still holding on to the 2018 version, there's a newer version. It's been updated. Go get it. There's some pretty good stuff in there.
Yes, and it's the book that helped me really change the way that I look at marketing. Clarifying your message, getting your marketing message dialed in is like the number one lever that you can do as a marketing individual. But if you're writing your marketing messaging in a one size fits all, just like if you were to go to a clothing store and they only had one size of shirt for Will and it was medium, how would that make you feel?
A little bit fat, to be very honest with you, Steve. A little self-conscious, if you want to be truthful.
Well, and so if you're writing one size marketing messaging, how's it going to feel to the other side?
A little uncomfortable. It's never going to feel right. You'll get your marketing out there. It's a great point, actually. You'll get your marketing out there. It will be titled marketing, but it'll never be as effective unless you tailor it to the body type or the mind state of your customers.
That's right. So the books help me understand how to use science to connect with my clients. And so Will's book is I highly recommend it, that you go get it. And you can learn more here at the mindstategroup.com. Will, today we're sharing our best small business stories.
That's right. It's the end of the year. People, we made it. You made it through the year. You're probably starting to wind down a little bit. And I wanted to take a little of the behavioral science off, a little bit, and say, you know what, man, we're all small businesses. And I started thinking a little bit about, if I want to talk to small businesses, what is the one thing that I found out very early that I wish I would have had? And I think we may have talked about this one time, long time ago, but this idea that when you start your business, nobody ever tells you the stories of like the things that you screwed up on, or the times when, oh man, I don't know if I can do this. They wouldn't talk about Elon Musk, and they all talk about these incredible, all the books you can buy, all the articles in Success Magazine. They don't talk about the downside sometimes, And so I was just sitting there thinking, man, if only I had people who could tell me stories about the good and the bad. And I remember reflecting on that when I was I am a small business owner. When I first started, I just said, man, let's just have fun with this, Steve. Let's just talk a little bit about kind of some good things, some funny stories, whatever. Just make it a little funner conversation with us today. But I do want to actually, Steve, and I didn't tell you about this. When we tell our stories, I'm going to ask you, or something that you learned. Because I think, hey, if we're an educational, I don't want to say we're an educational show, but we try to give people something to take away. So I'm going to ask you what you learned. I'll put you on the spot for a second, and I'll ask you what you learned from some of these stories. And you do the same with me.
All right. That's fair. That's a fair deal. I don't feel like you're gonna make fun of me or shame me in front of everybody, so I'm comfortable with that.
Me too. We're gonna get down into the dirty, into the funny moments, but not so funny moments too, I hope. So how do you want to do this, my friend?
Well, you have a note here that says running a small business is an emotional roller coaster.
That's right. I was just thinking, like, if you are about to start your business, or you're thinking about starting your business, and if all you're thinking about are those highs and all the things you're going to do in life, those are great. But let me tell you, your day and your week and your months, I don't care what kind of business owner you are going to have ups and downs. It is a roller coaster. It is not for the faint of heart. It is for those people that love to adapt, that can go with the flow, that can figure out, new technologies on the fly. You and I have had these experiences literally, Steve, when, my whole technology shut down and you're running the show for me, and then I'm coming in like 1 minute beforehand. I'm trying to set up things. So every day, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a small business, is a roller coaster. It just truly is. And so I just say, you know what? If it truly is a roller coaster, let's talk about those highs and those lows, like I said, because you're going to experience them. So why wouldn't we tell other people about those things as well? So everybody can just identify a bit,
Yes, it is, because I think the one thing that it seems all sexy, that's going to, hey, I have my own business now, right? And it is something you should be proud of, that you want to be proud of. But bottom line, every single decision stops at you. It's your responsibility, and ultimately you pay for it. I mean, you think about when you start a business and you're running a business, your employees, if you have employees, if things aren't going right, then they can leave and go get a job somewhere else. But you're the one left holding all the debts, all the responsibilities. Everything is ultimately up to you, that it gets done and that you're responsible for.
And let me add to that. It's not even, just the idea that, your job is to hopefully, make those decisions where your employees don't want to go away. But you also, you owe as a human being, as somebody who is, helping to pave the way for future entrepreneurs, you owe it to your employees to create an environment that they grow, that they take on critical experiences for you, that they're able to grow both intellectually and gain greater maturity in the business. So that's also another thing you need to think about, is if you have people, that you should be helping them grow to become their best selves, even if that means that they leave you one day. But you could rest easily, or easier anyways, thinking, you know what, I did everything I could do to make this person's life better, and you made a little difference on the world,
Yes. I think the thing that's the most fulfilling, you have this dream of starting a business. It's scary. And like you were saying, everyone thinks of, hey, I'm going to be like Michael Jordan. Everybody knows the Michael Jordan's success story and winning and all these things, but you don't realize how long it took him to become, till you learned about Michael Jordan. How many years was it that he was around hustling before he even learned his name? And so I always like to say, people want to be like Mike. Remember that Gatorade commercial? Be like Mike. People want to be like Mike, but I think you need to I think the sobering thing is you need to be like Mike Rowe and be ready to do all the dirty jobs.
Love that. No, I love that. It's like bands too. A lot of times, you'll see a band like, this is the greatest new act, and then you don't realize that they've been on tour for 15 or 20 years before anybody knew them. So that's more common. That road is more common than the other road. Like, just all of a sudden, you make it hit. You get that perfect product that gets you, to thousands of subscribers and millions of views, and a multi-million-dollar business. Those are few and far between. I wish people knew that, but they don't, because we only focus on the successes in media, because those are the fun stories. Those are the stories that people love to talk about. But just as important, and maybe even more important, is understanding that a lot of people don't have that level of success, or when they do have it, it took them years and years and years to build. So it's a journey, not just the destination.
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest lessons I learned is you're never out of the woods. Okay. So you think that, running a business, like you made it through that first year, you made it through the second year, but it doesn't mean that you're going to make it through the third year. And you need to have your head on a swivel, and you need to be like, you need to be thinking about what's coming around the curve that maybe you're not expecting, and be prepared for that.
How many times have you shifted your business? And that can be major shift. Like, how many times have you shifted since owning it? How long have you owned your business, by the way? The business you're in right now?
Yeah, this is my 10th year.
Okay, me too. This is my 10th. Well, 2022 will be my 10th year, so I'm a little bit behind. On my 9th year. How many times have you shifted your business into like something that's pretty dramatically different?
I bet you five times.
About the same. I'm about the same. I'll tell one of those stories today. But you're right. And when I first started, there's no way in the world I thought I would. I knew my business. Like, this is it. This is going to make me $1 million. And oftentimes it wasn't that I just grew bored with my old business. I want to start something new. the market changed. That, like you just said, something changed where in year 3, I wasn't out of the woods yet. I was deep in those woods and I had to change. And sometimes that change is easy and other times that change is hard, but you still change.
Change. Yeah, I think that's something you got to wear. You got to wear on your shirt that change, whether I like it or not. I'm good at change and I'm good at feeling out of control.
Yeah, I don't do so great with that. When my back's against the wall, I will work harder than anyone. And I
Yeah.
always have been that guy, but I'll try to resist change a little bit more. I think we talked about, I'm a little more cautious, I think, at first, but when I see the writings on the wall, I go all in. And that actually, you and I talk about this because you see the change much earlier than I do. You try to push me into a different area that I don't necessarily want to go into. So I'll listen to you, and then I'll oftentimes just kind of, yeah, we should do that. And then we'll delay that conversation. And then about 2 months later, 3 months later, you'll reframe the same idea to me. I'm like, okay, but you had to seed it. Same thing with my wife, man. If she comes to me on a Friday afternoon saying we have a Friday night party, I am mad as hell. But if she seeds that like on Wednesday, then I don't like it. But then by Friday, I just get my head wrapped around, okay, I'm going to go or whatever. So yeah. So that's me. I'm a delayed changer for sure, man.
Change is something that, I think I waver between, am I changing or am I quitting? Right. And so I don't see myself as a quitter. I will dig down and be persistent and power through a tough situation. But there's this point where I'm going, am I just insisting on being stubborn here to make it through, or is there something I'm ignoring that I need to just accept and embrace?
I didn't know that about you. So what is that moment? Do you know what that moment is? Like when you're like, what is it? Can you give me an example or whatever, when you've said like, okay, that's enough, I can't dig in anymore? That's such
I think so. So let's frame it in this way. Every agency has clients who leave. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so if you're really honest and you sit down and you take an inventory, first you got to get past, well, they wouldn't do this or they didn't do that, or right. You got to get past that real fast. Yeah. Okay. Because that doesn't change anything. And so when you sit down and evaluate, all right, well, what is it in this that I maybe was insisting on, maybe I was ignoring? What lesson can I learn and make an adjustment? So one lesson, great, but I need to have an affirmation. I need to see a confirmation of, yes, that's a good signal. That wasn't a one-off. So I need a couple of those, but so how long do you kind of go through the storm before, all right, that's signal number 3, it's time to turn, right?
I love that. So it's almost like the post-audits. So there's this, I'm not gonna bring behavioral science, but I have to now. So you said, so there's this idea of recency effect where that when you take notice of something, you're more likely to see that again and again. Before, you may not have even observed it, but you got to take the first step is like recognizing that this is something to focus on. And then your subconscious will actually go, oh, here it is again, here it is again, here it is again. And so that's kind of what you're, in a way, I think that's probably what's going on, is not just consciously thinking, is this same idea or this same, pivot that I should be making coming up once and again and again and again. Your subconscious will actually show you all the times you should have done that. I love that. That's a cool idea.
That's where the idea of my book came from. It was like, we'd get going with a client, we would do work for 2 years, 3 years. And then all of a sudden this conversation would come, Steve, I just don't think it's working. And I'm going, we were just sitting and bragging about your account. What is it that you don't see that's working? And what I realized was I assumed they were handling the sales side. Our job is to help introduce leads. Yep. But they weren't taking those leads and doing something with it. So they didn't have something to show for all this work. And then who gets the blame? We do.
Of course. It's not my problem.
Okay.
It's your problem.
Yeah. So if I really took ownership in that conversation, my fault that I didn't start off with the expectation we're going to connect the dots on these. And so that came from the assumption I was assuming they thought the same way I did. And it's not true.
It's not true. That's right.
And you pay for the because you pay for it, because if they leave, you pay for it. You're not getting that revenue anymore,
Yeah.
right? And so that's when we had to, like, let's make sure that we're addressing our fundamentals. We get that clear. This is what our expectation are. We're going to do these 4 things. Then the team started speaking that language too. From, we were just kind of assuming in that, or I was, but as a leader, that's not a good leadership strategy.
Yeah. Really. I love it. I love the pivot, man. You're right, man. I love how the other side of it is nobody is ever going to look at them. Well, it's rare that somebody will look at themselves and say, I'm really the issue. When I'm paying for a service, it's really difficult. And as an agency owner, there's only so far you can push back. You say, well, what about these leads? We've looked at this. We know that you've grown, awareness by X, or we've delivered you 100 different leads. Then I say, well, they're not qualified leads. These people they weren't really good leads. And like, how do you bat eventually as an agency owner? You can't shift the blame too much on your clients. So you're like, okay, well, hopefully you can win them back, someday in the future, I guess. So
yeah, and you have to think there are other things valuable that you can bring to the table as well, by helping the clients start to change the way they see themselves and their responsibility in this scary thing called marketing. You started a business. You didn't start a marketing company. You started a business because you want to take care of your customers, or you wanted to do what you do. But then there's this dirty little thing called marketing that you need to embrace and get good at. And so Michael's encouraging us here. Thanks, Michael.
Yeah, I'm sure Michael has some stories of his own. Right? We know Michael now, and Michael's small business owner trying to make he's trying to make a real big difference in the world, which is cool. So yeah, it's important to understand the agency or consultant to client relationship. And I like that idea what you said here, Steve, when you said vision, is this idea that I oftentimes think that it used to be okay for us to provide you expertise. Like, I'm going to give you the most expertise I can to get you through a situation. And I think the new economy is going to require more than that. I think the new economy requires for you to set the vision for your client and then give them expertise to set that vision. We assume that people can just set a vision, but you got to realize as a consultant or whoever your coach, whatever, that you see things in a unique way, where business owners are oftentimes so focused on their business, they don't see the broader world. You as a consultant work with many businesses, so you see a slightly broader world, and you owe it to your clients to set that vision. And when you can set a vision, that makes you very compelling and very differentiated from so many other people out there that are just trying to sell expertise, online marketing, whatever it is.
Yeah, and the past 2 years, I think everything's changed way more than we realize for our customers, our businesses, our employees. I think one of the big responsibilities of our job is to help our clients see around the corner that they can't see. Something's coming toward us. We're going to have to be prepared or react to it. So you and I have the sober responsibility to help folks see around the corner and what's coming. And that vision is a part of it. But also, I think we need to help them see how ultimately the challenge of marketing in a digital world is not any different than the challenge of communicating clearly in a one-to-one like this. That's what if you boil it down, that's what you and I really do. We help our clients communicate their value to their audience in a way that feels like that other side's understood and that they're safe, because they know deep down they're kind of, it's called that internal struggle. I'm driving blind. I'm doing the best I can. I'm trying to figure it out, but it'd be nice to have someone with a flashlight and a map to help me through this dark forest.
That's right, man. If only we had those maps before we started our businesses. Now, we were the pioneers, had to go through the mountain first to build the road. But actually, that is honestly an expertise that you provide your clients. Like you said, it's because you've gone down that road. So big part of what we do every day. We should be doing a lot more of that. So I'm going to start doing that a little bit more in 2022. In fact, I know I am setting those visions. They're really important for our clients.
So what's the one moment where your company shifted to something entirely new and unexpected?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna tell you, this is gonna be the story for me that I'll never forget. It's like, you know how you have like these firsts in your life, Steve? Like this is a story I'll never forget. So when I first started my company, I didn't know what I was doing. We all can admit that we don't know really what we're doing. So I remember how difficult it was for me to say, are we an agency, a consultancy, or a firm? That to me was a huge deal. Like it's so stupid to think about that now. But back then I was like, I don't want to be consulting because consultants have bad, people don't like consultants. And agency, man, agency sounds kind of sexy. A firm sounds like a lawyer. So I started calling myself Trigger Point, a behavioral research and design behavioral research and design agency. I called myself an agency. Well, I had a very large client one time, and this was very early on. They were 70% of revenues, which is a whole horrible thing to ever do, is have one client who's 70% of your revenues, but that's what they were. And I'm on a call one time, and they love this piece of research, but then the person on the phone says, okay, Will, but listen, our internal agency people, they're overwhelmed right now. So we want you to go ahead and take your research and turn them into direct mail kits. And I smiled, not really understanding what she was asking for. I was like, oh, yeah. And because she naturally assumed that I was an agency, like I was a marketing agency. I knew nothing about how do you execute on my research. Like I knew I hire other people to do that. So what I did was I nodded, and she goes, okay, just give me that cost proposal and everything else. And I got the phone. I go, oh my God, she thinks I'm an agency. And I just nodded. So I lied to her basically, right? But I was young. I mean, I needed the money really bad. So I called up a friend of mine here in Dallas, and I said, okay, and she works at a large agency, a really big Omnicom agency. And I said, I was just off the phone call, and she said, like, she needs me to develop direct mail kits. I know what a direct mail kit really is. What do I do? And she said, actually, well, there's this thing called freelancers that can do this work for you. So, okay, cool. There's this world called freelancer. I never come from that world, Steve. Like, that's your world. That is not my world at all. So I literally, very short, or very long story turned very short, I found a freelance copywriter and a freelance creative director, because this huge company, you would all know the name of this company, wanted us to fly out to their headquarters. And then for a day, they're going to brief us on their business, their brand, their customer. They're going to basically present to us because we have to go create all this direct mail work. I met my creative director about 4 days before the meeting in person, and we hit it off. And then the copywriter I met the morning of the meeting because I'd never met this guy, and we met at breakfast. But we had until noon to kind of set up what are we going to do? Like, what are we going to talk about? Like, I was trying to explain my company. Well, then all of a sudden they asked us to come in early because they had more presentations ever. So we got on, like, I met this guy at 8:30, and by 9:15, we were inside the corporate headquarters of this massive company saying that we're an agency. And I just met this guy in the car and the creative director two days before. But we handled it like the copywriter never said a word, not one time. He was so scared. I remember he was sweating because he was so scared. So I think, well, how long have you all been working, or what other campaigns? And he was sweating. He was so scared he was going to say something wrong because he knew nothing about my company, subconscious marketing. My creative director, he was one of these marketing guys, Steve, that could just go with the flow. And I'd say something, I'd look at him, and I could just tell from his eyes, man, he knew. He'd go, well, here's what we've done before. And we go through every meeting throughout the day, and we are nailing it. Like, I can even tell, like, we're pulling this whole thing off. Like, I don't know what we're even talking about. Like, anything that had to do with the mechanics of creating creative, I would have this guy stand up, and he would kind of talk about it. And he knew just enough with me to build those bridges between subconscious and what it's like. So Will gives us these briefs and everything else. So I'll never forget it. We walk out, and we had a successful day. We met the CMO of this major global company. And as we're walking out the doors open up, and I'm going, let's just go. Like, because I was like, let's just get to the car. Nobody's turning around. But it was this moment where the three of us are sitting next to each other, and we just want to, like, go, yeah, scream, because we made it. We got in the car, and we also go, yeah, we started high-fiving each other because we got away with pretending, I guess, that we were a agency when we were not an agency. It was one of that moment of just exuberance, right? When you did it. You did it. And you know what we ended up doing, by the way? You may be up there and say, well, like, we kicked butt on this project. Like, these guys way over delivered. The subconscious blueprints we provided actually grew 30% on their direct mail take rates, right? So it wasn't like we were pretenders and then we screwed them. Like, we actually figured out a way to do it, because I felt like if I didn't do that, they would look at me and say, well, you've been saying you're an agency the whole time, and I don't want to have that awkward conversation saying, well, I'm not that type of agency. I'm another type of agency. So adapt and overcome. For the next 2 years, I was truly an agency where I had this creative director and had a copywriter on staff to basically take our insights reports into creative execution. It ended up being a position, or ended up being an area I didn't really like a lot. I just didn't like that side of the house. But so I actually outsource all that stuff now. But for 2 years, I tried to be an agency because we are actually pretty good at it. So huge pivot for my company. And it came from an awkward situation where my huge client, just expected that I was an agency, and I pivoted and I did it. So huge pivot for my company.
That's awesome. That feeling of is so fulfilling to get in there and just get the flow, even though and that's what I'm talking about, being okay, being out of control or being uncomfortable.
That's great. Because that's how Chris and I were. Like, I would look at his eyes and I knew he was going to say something that would compliment the crap that I'd come out of my mouth. Like he was so good. He was just really good at it. And we just had that flow, man, between him and the copywriter, no flow. He was just terrified, expecting any minute they're going to say, wait a minute, you guys only know each other for a day, like literally. But yeah, you're right. That flow is huge. If you can find that person, look them in the eye, and you can tell what they're thinking and they can tell what you're thinking, man, it's great. I'll never forget it. That moment we're high-fiving in the car going, we did it. We did it. Because they were small. I mean, we're all very small, right? And we're small, but we punch above our weight, right? That's what we do. We punch above our weight. And for us to walk out and just high-fiving each other until we got in the car, because we're always scared. We had this vision that the people are going to be downstairs looking at us, or upstairs looking at us through the window. And so we're like, just keep walking, get to the car. So we can then start high-fiving each other, because we did it, man. 8 hours of out of control. 8 hours of out of control.
That's funny. They're up there looking down and goes, do you think they know we know?
Yeah.
Weren't they just cute?
No. We got away with it, man. No way. We're good actors. No way anybody would know. It's kind of like when your kid thinks that they got away with something, right? You're like, yeah, I know. That's funny. So, hey, did you have a similar thing? Like, what was that? Do you have a moment where all of a sudden, like, you shifted to something totally new and unexpected?
Yeah. So when the shutdown started happening, it's like all the wheels started coming off for a lot of my clients. I had attrition.
Yeah.
I mean, the hopes and dreams that they had in place had been like just taken off the table. And so everybody was slamming on the brakes and stuff. And it was scary. What I wanted to do is like, what can I do to develop, I don't know, a different way to connect with folks. And that's when I started my podcast. And that's when I started doing these live stream or pre-recorded interviews with my faithful existing clients that were able to hang in there with us. And it was like, I've always been told I had a face for radio, right? But I never been in that industry, and so I had to learn how to interview, how to coach, how to manage, your talent, so to speak, that are coming in. I had to help these clients that were like going, Steve, what are you asking me to regularly talk about it? And we're going to do it in a live stream, or we're going to post it on a podcast or Facebook. Yeah. But they went with me, and it's like our agency is totally different now, and the value and the connection with my clients is through the roof.
Mm-hmm. No, I love it. Yeah, obviously it helped me, right? I mean, I was one of those guys that didn't know exactly what you were asking to do, didn't necessarily even want to do it at first, but went for the ride because you've done some great work for me anyways, and you and I have that flow that we're talking about. And I said, all right, we'll do it. And it's been kind of fun to even have this thing. I think we're on well over a year now of doing this. Well over a year, right? And it's just been great. It's been awesome, in fact. But
think about it. You were in that room having to deliver when you didn't know anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yet that's what I had to start doing as well. And the other thing I think that you need to embrace as a business owner is you need to be okay totally looking like a goofball.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Just, we have an ego, but I think that we need to give ourselves a little bit of slack that, of course, you're not going to look like Michael Jordan
Mhm.
You know those guys that you hate to play golf with, that they don't play very often. When they come out there, they get so mad when they make a bad shot.
Yeah. Yep.
This is not fun, but how can you expect to make a good shot if you don't practice every day?
You made a great distinction, I think, is that now let's say you made this pivot. You're thinking, okay, really what I think we need to do right now is, bring clients on and build out this whole new capability where we can have one-on-one conversations, can be broadcast across multiple channels, but I better make sure I get it right. So let me go study this. In fact, let me go to some broadcasting courses. I'm sure there's good broadcasting courses, and let's go figure out, the technology side of it. And right now you'd be still trying to figure it out. And then the moment has passed, right? It's gone. So it's a distinction that's important, I think, for any small business owner out there. And one that we don't hear enough is you just got to go try. And in today's world, if you fail, like you said, if you can, it's not that big a deal when you make mistakes or whatever. Like you and I have literally had things totally shut down and we're still trying to, work it out. It's not a big deal. People give you grace, right? People give you grace because the world's a lot different than it was, 5 years ago. The new world is a lot different. So if you wait too long till you're an expert at doing all this stuff, you'll never get it done. And then the whole moment is passed, especially how technology is today. It's totally passed on you.
Yeah, you think about, you used to do all these presentations on stage in front of lots of people. And that was where you were going. And then all of a sudden that was off the table.
Just like that, I lost 16 speaking engagements. And guys, that was my marketing. I mean, we were trying to do what we're doing, Steve, but that was the way I brought in business. I get on stage, I talk about my passion, I get off stage, people come up to me. That world ended on March 12th. That was gone. It still hasn't even come back. I still haven't been on stage since 2020, March of 20. Actually, before March 2020. I think it was in February 2020 was the last time I was on stage. That's a long time ago, guys. If I would have been trying to figure out, man, if Steve can only build out this technology, I'd be in a totally different place. I'd be bankrupt. There's just no way. I'd be totally bankrupt. So you have to pivot. You have to pivot fast. If you make mistakes, it's okay. You make mistakes. Everyone gives you grace.
And so you think about what really changed is maybe there's not 60,000 people watching our conversation in this moment, but this goes and resides somewhere. And over time, you may have that many people watch it, but it'll be a year from now in aggregate, not all at the same time. So you just have to think totally different.
Well, you used to tell me all the time too. You'd say, okay, well, how many people would you need to have in a room before you felt like, it was worth your time to go visit them? And I remember I'd go to corporations with 6 people. Like all I need to have is one of those 6 people ask me for a proposal. And you're like, if this lives out here on YouTube, or if this sits out here on LinkedIn or whatever, or on, like, how quickly you're going to get 6 people to look at it, and 36 and 3,336. Like it just multiplies so quickly. You're like, wouldn't you do that anyways? Of course I would do that. But again, it's a different shift. It's a different vision, right? Because of course I'm like, I don't want to do a podcast or something for 6 people. Who wants that? But you used to travel on your own dime to fly to other parts of the country to meet with 6 people. That's what you used to do. I'm like, that's so true. I never think of, and you don't think of it that way,
Now you just put your sandwich down and walk to work in your house shoes and sit down and do it.
Amen. That's right.
So is there a moment that made you just want to shut things down?
Yeah. This is one I wish I learned. I wish somebody would have told me that there are going to be moments that you want to shut down your company. Because I've been there. Certainly COVID was a time like, man, I don't know about this. But when I first started the company, I had these high aspirations of like, I know something that nobody else knows. I have a solution that can optimize marketing, and exponentially grow, help people. And I had case studies. I'd been doing this stuff for a while. So I got out of the company. I started my own company, and I tried to go back to some of my old clients, where I worked. And quickly I realized that all because you work for somebody does not mean that they want to hire you. And it's not, I don't think it was like they just didn't trust me. I just don't think I came up to mind. Like I used to be Will Leach, Senior Director of Marketing Research at PepsiCo. Now all of a sudden, like, no, I'm Will Leach, Behavioral Consultant, at Trigger Point. And I don't think people could wrap their head around it. So I didn't have enough money for office space. I wasn't working out of the house. So what I would do, and this is the entrepreneurial journey. There's so many people go, I would go to the library and I would park in the parking lot because at least where we are at 8:30, the doors open up and you would not believe, you guys should go do this. So many entrepreneurs run to the library because you get free internet access. if you're really quick, you can get an office for the day. And then it's going to be quiet. So you can run a business pretty well from a library. And a lot of people do that. So I was in that mode. I was trying to do that. Well, this one time, I mean, I had no luck. I couldn't find business anywhere. I was trying to do anything I could do, get on stage. Nobody was having me on stage. And you start like the vision that you had for your company. All of a sudden you start looking around. This is what it was for me. It was in December of 2012. I'm outside of Frisco, Texas library, and it's raining and it's cold, but I couldn't get in. The library had run out of space, basically too many entrepreneurs. And I needed a plug for my computer. So you can't just sit in a chair. You need to be close to a plug. So I went up all 4 floors, could not find a plug. So I went outside to plug outside an outlet. And it was cold. I was at a picnic table under at least a little overhang. And brother, I was like, this is not right. Like, I'm better than this. I used to be a senior director of marketing research. So I called up my old boss and I asked for I already told Melanie this. I asked for my job back. I never told Melanie I was doing this. I just felt so horrible. Like, this is obviously not going to work. I run out of people to call, run out of emails. It's almost like when you lose your job and you've written all the resumes you can. You're like, I'm done. It's 10 a.m. That's how I was. So I called up my old boss and she agreed to meet with me because I asked, did you rehire my position? And for a couple of months she had, because I left in July of that year. So only been 6 months in. So we go to a place, a breakfast place. And she says, Will, I think what you're doing is really great. And I actually think that you're just scared right now. Like, this is what great mentors are. She was a vice president. She goes, I just think you're scared. I don't think you really want to come back to Pepsi. But if you come to me tomorrow and you say you want your job back, she goes, I don't know if I can get you that job, but I can get you a job at a similar salary, basically, in my group. But I don't know if that job I can get you back into. So I was like, okay. So I go back home that night and I'm just talking to my wife. She said, what's going on? And I told her, and I go, well, today I went back to Pam and I asked for my old job back. And her face just like, no, right? And I was like, I try to justify it. She goes, let's get down. She sits me in front of my wife, Melanie, sits me in front of a computer, and we type up this email together. And she basically says, Dear Pam, my former VP, this is Will. I'm writing this to tell you that I do not want this job. And if I come back to you ever again asking for this job, realize that I'm scared and do not hire me. And then signed it. It was something to that effect. Thank you so much, but you're right. So my wife hit the button and she goes, now it's done. She burned the bridges. She goes, now it's done.
Wow.
And what it was she's like, I believe in you. She goes, you may not believe in yourself right now. Because back then, I mean, I don't know if you guys, if any entrepreneurs are out there, this has happened. Like, I couldn't sleep for 2 days. I literally could not get out of my head because I had a kid, man. I had a mortgage and we had saved some money, but I was going through the money pretty quick. And she's the one who made me hit that, or she hit the return button or the send button. She goes, it's done. Pam is never going to hire you because of this. So it's done. But then she set me aside. She goes, I believe in you. I believe in you. You're going to be able to turn this around. I know you will. And then here I am. I turned around. So for me, that was the closest I came. I literally was going to shut down the company after 6 months because I just gave up because nobody told me how hard it was going to be, how you start doubting your own abilities. You start doubting you're not confident anymore. You're like, I'm telling people what they need and they just don't get it. Like, and that's of course the wrong way to sell anything. Here, I'm telling you what you need. Like, I had no idea what I was doing, but I learned so much. And I told this to another entrepreneur one time, this story, he goes, similar thing happened to him. So I don't think I'm the only one. And what he said was, you need to have, when you start your own company, you need to have people around you who believe in you more than you do. Because there are times when you don't believe in yourself. And I had a lot of the accolades. I had the model. I had the credibility, and it didn't matter. I just lost all confidence in myself after 6 months of just failure. So have that somebody who believes in you, who will remind you that you're much better than you think you are. Because there's times, at least for me, that I did not feel that way. I was that close, man. If I didn't tell my wife, I would have left everything. Isn't that crazy? In the cold rain. It was so terrible. It was raining outside. I was outside. The wind was blowing. I was like, this is stupid. This is such a stupid thing. I had no office space. And coffee shops, you can't do, as much as that, you can't do work from a coffee shop. They're always grinding beans and there's music. So I had to find a quiet place. So I had to do the Frisco Public Library.
I don't think I can top that. No, I had a client that they were one of my original clients when I started my agency. Anyway, I grew that to where the retainer was significant. And we had met at a conference in Dallas, a year later after we'd been doing it, and they were bragging on us and committed to this big thing. And the retainer started going that direction. And then one day, and they got new partners or new whatever, then all of a sudden that was in jeopardy. And that train came to a stop so fast.
Nothing that you did.
No.
Yeah.
No. And I did whatever I could to try to keep it, but it was just an exercise in respect, that the additional meetings or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like the writing was on the wall, but it was like, am I being pessimistic, or am I being realistic? And should I start throwing that airplane that's running out of gas and the engine's on fire and you're trying to throw things out the window to keep it in the air long enough?
Yeah. That's
what it felt like for a while. And you don't know if you're going to crash or if you're going to go at the very end.
Yeah.
And I've had these several times, and I don't care how many times you've done that. It still doesn't feel right.
No, I've been there where the check has to arrive on a Thursday for me to pay my staff on Monday. And it came, but I was that close, right? I was that close to, if not maybe shutting it down, but at least having an awkward conversation saying, I can't pay your salary. I don't have the money. And you got to keep that to yourself because you got to build trust in the organization and confidence in the organization. But I've been there twice where I'm like, this has to hit. There cannot be a hiccup in they forgot to send the check, because if that check doesn't clear, I'm in a bad place on Monday. I have awkward conversations with my staff.
It's called the brown pants situations. That joke about he's the pirate, captain, and so the boat's about to go. They're about to go into battle, and he calls his little helper, and he goes, Frederick, bring me my red shirt. And so Frederick brings a red shirt, and he takes off his white shirt and puts a red shirt on, and they fight the battle and they win. And later the guy goes, why did you ask for the red shirt? And he goes, well, it's because, in a battle, if I get cut and I bleed, then the rest of everybody won't see me bleeding and they'll continue on. And so in the next battle, the English Navy showed up or something, and there was 2 or 3 ships, and they were getting ready to go into battle. And he turns around and he says, Frederick, bring me my brown pants. I wear brown pants a lot. So.
Yeah. Nice. I don't know if I'll ever be able to tell that joke as good as you, but I will do my best when the time is right. That's awesome.
So it's about time to wrap this up. You're not alone, guys.
Nope. Share. Hey, listen, one thing I wish, and I hope it's gotten better, but 10 years ago, I did not have a Steve to talk to. I did not have another small business person to talk to. All I heard was that all you have to do is you get an app out there on the iTunes store, and you're going to make your money. You're going to be a millionaire. Or you just got to put your stuff on YouTube. And once it gets on YouTube, you go viral, and then people buy. You're probably like, nobody sat down with me and told me not just that there could be a downside. Because I'm a realist, right? I understand. I know the data well enough to say it's going to be hard. But nobody told me the mental side of it, the mental side of perseverance, of finding a way, adapting, when I became an agency for 2 years, because that's where my biggest client wanted me to be. So I became an agency until they didn't want me to be an agency, and I turned back into something else. Or how you pivoted as well, Steve, right? So share your stories, man. And I think you and I even talk about now, we want to start doing this, more of this story next year on the Mindstate Marketing Hour. We want to bring in entrepreneurs next year to share their story and talk about some of these things, but from a human perspective. So I know we got some news coming up here starting next year where we're going to bring in some entrepreneurs, tell their stories, but share with them how they're bringing more human, centered thinking into their business to make, the world a little bit better. And so you and I have been talking a lot about that, but share your stories with other business owners because they need it. You may not know it because on Facebook, it makes you believe that everybody's happy and everybody's business is successful, and it's not. we all wear brown pants at some point. So let somebody who's wearing brown pants know that you also wear some brown pants, right?
Yeah, we'll just call it the Brown Pants series.
The brown pants series. We may want to talk. I don't know. We'll see. That's not a bad title.
No. Yeah, you just so when you're on Instagram, when you're on Facebook, looking through, everybody's smiling and all happy. Usually it's from here up, but what you don't see is they're all wearing brown pants. Truthfully,
that's right. Well, hey Steve, this was a great session with you, man. I'm going to miss you for the next couple of weeks. We're not going to be on for the next 2 weeks, right? Yeah, we're going to pick it back up in January, right?
We're going to take a break, have a little alone time, and then kick it back up in the first of the year.
We are.
Well, good. Have a great end of the year. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yep.
We appreciate you. Be sure to send in those questions and stuff. We're not going to make Will dance today in his brown pants.
No brown pants dancing today. That's right.
So, all right. Will, any last thing? We've got, by the way, you started your new breakout sessions.
I did. Yep. So, I have these Mindstate breakthrough sessions where we spend 45 minutes with you to go through your business to help you understand where your business needs to possibly change, hopefully using behavioral sciences to exponentially grow. So if you go to mindstategroup.com, you're going to find a whole bunch of different boxes out there that say breakthrough sessions. Click on those. You'll go to my calendar, book a time that's convenient for you, and then jump on a phone call with me, and I will take you through a discovery session with your company to figure out how we can help you grow next year. So go ahead and do that. Real simple, real fun kind of conversation. I want to get to know you. So go schedule a breakthrough session.
Do it and get Will's book and read it. You'll really enjoy it.
Thank you,
and
sir.
Then you'll enjoy working with Will. So here we go. Let's run this outro. That's right. We're on podcast, all the places you listen to podcasts. So be sure to subscribe and like. Also to find the YouTube channel, the Mindstate channel, where you can subscribe and like. All that algorithm, click, like, smash, whatever they always say. We appreciate you very much.
It all matters.
We'll see you next year.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Have a great year.
Bye-bye. That's a wrap.